Hello everyone, my name is TurboTony19 and I'm here with Fan Mato.
You're getting worse every day.
Yeah, so we're here today with the final Let's Talk Wrestling before WrestleMania, and it's a big one. Obviously, WrestleMania is literally this weekend. I'll probably end up uploading this probably like the day before, so um, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about here today, as we do normally before pay-per-views. I know we missed, I think, one or two in the past. We will do our predictions for this pay-per-view as well.
Oh
We're
yeah.
also going to talk a little bit about. We've got like another subject at the end as well. We're going to talk a little bit about MMA and sort of like about the stuff like that as well, like how wrestlers would make the transition into that and sort of thing.
hmm
So we've got quite a few bits to talk about there today. So we might as well get straight back into it. We've got number one, which I'll Raw recap. It was the final Raw before WrestleMania. What was your overall thoughts on it?
I think Raw ended on a high. I think so to say. Um, all in all, a good Raw. I mean, I will admit I did fast forward the Bella match.
Yeah,
I couldn't watch it. I
yeah.
could not watch. I couldn't bring myself to watch it. I was like, no, not gonna happen.
No, I agree. I thought that it was very strange as well, how considering how pro Cena and Rock WWE are, that they decided to go with Punk and Undertaker to close the show, and it was a very sort of impactful ending to the show as well.
Yeah, that's
So
definitely true.
yeah,
I think it's because it's a stronger it's a stronger story, really.
yeah,
It makes because all you're thinking is just all Undertaker, sorry, all Rock and Cena is, oh, I beat you before. Oh, but yeah, I want to make up for that, and that's pretty much the long and short of Cena. Oh, and the title's up for grabs. Oh, how can I forget?
yeah, yeah.
And that's pretty much just like the long and short of the Cena of the storyline.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And we went into this in quite a lot of detail last week, and we said that of all the main storylines that are going on at the moment, Cena and Rock are actually the most thin of
Yeah,
storylines, and they've kind of made something about redemption.
there's one thing
Oh,
about
that's great.
Raw I did quite like though. Washington does not like Cena.
Yes, he's got a bit of a frosty response. I think that might actually go back a little bit far when they did a pay-per-view, if you remember last year, called Capital
Capital
Punishment.
Punishment. Yeah.
And it was a really shit pay-per-view, and maybe, they remembered that or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, the main event was Cena versus R-Truth.
yeah, exactly. It wasn't exactly a marquee, big sort of thing going on, but no, he didn't get a good response at all. I imagine he probably will get a good response at WrestleMania. Um, he seems to be the one thing actually I wanted to bring up actually in regards to his promo, and this is one of the things that kind of going back to what we said about the differences of why we think that Rock is actually a better promo giver than Cena, is that when Cena came out and obviously the fans didn't like him and everything, he didn't really amend his promo. It was all very scripted. He didn't amend his promo to
Yeah.
adhere to what the crowd would like, and I think that's something that he hasn't been able to do for the majority of his career. Whereas Rock can, if he comes out and the fans are against him, he can adapt his promos to get them on his side.
Oh yeah, and
So
it's never the same promo. Like I quite like how we're in DC, they'll have to do like a whole presidential sort of thing,
mm,
and it's just the way he can just swing that in with the whole sort of finally the Rock, and it's just like wherever he is, he can just throw it in.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and everyone can get behind those sort of like the catchphrases that he has and everything.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's brilliant. But yeah, I think on the run up to WrestleMania, it's not. I mean, like I said, I don't want to go into too much of who did the better promos and everything, but I think that The Rock definitely looked a lot more impressive leading into Mania,
yeah,
especially as they haven't wrestled really that much leading into it. I mean, you might say, okay, Rock hasn't had a match, but John Cena hasn't had one in the last couple of weeks either. So
exactly.
I know they probably don't want to risk them getting injured or anything like this, but still, it's a
Yeah,
little bit like it kind of stunts it going forward. I remember before in previous WrestleManias going forward that they used to have guys going in and really sort of like physical matches before WrestleMania. And now, what I guess it's a really bad sort of business thing if they get injured, but it kind of built up the fact that they're these hardened warriors going into Mania and all this sort of thing. But
yeah.
what was your general thoughts of the whole? You had obviously the return of HBK, which was brilliant to see. I'm always happy to see Shawn
Oh
Michaels.
yeah.
What did you think of their segment? Because it seemed very reminiscent of the one that you had with regarding Undertaker the year before.
Yeah, sort of don't do it. You know what it is. Like, yeah, it was actually very similar.
Yeah,
I I guess there's only so many times you can turn around and play the whole. You know, you do realize your career's on the line. I mean, they got a bit more sort of heart to heart with like, I could step away, but for you, Hunter, this is the business is it for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And just to make you aware there, Matt, that your voice is just coming crystal clear, so we can all hear you just doubly better than
Oh,
we
it's actually
previously did.
sorted itself out
Yeah,
then. Wait.
yeah. So yeah, that's great. But no, I'd agree with you. I think it was a good twist at the end because it was, like I said, the promo was very reminiscent of the one the year before where Shawn Michaels was going, I don't think you can beat him and all this lot. And
Yeah.
then obviously this year's like, you better beat him and all this lot. It was good. And then you obviously had Brock Lesnar come out and he revealed that Shawn Michaels. I mean, I'm a big fan of Shawn Michaels, but I don't like this sort of thing of I'll be in his corner and I'll
I
be
don't
in
think he
his
needs to be
corner.
in the corner.
Yeah, I don't think it needs. I don't even think Paul Heyman should be involved in the match. If you're gonna have two guys, like as they build them up, two monsters and going to go against each other, just leave it at them two going against each other. The more
Yeah.
overcomplicated it becomes, the less it becomes a big match. Would you agree with that at all? Or
Hmm,
yeah,
definitely. Um, it's sort of it's with the whole like I'll be in your corner. It sort of adds a bit to the staple, but it's like he wants. It's almost like Shawn Michaels just wants to be around again.
yeah,
Like, oh, I'll be the special guest referee. You didn't need to be the special guest referee,
yeah.
but I'll be there.
Yeah.
You don't need to be there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, we're huge fans of HBK, and I would
Oh,
love to see him
definitely.
involved in WrestleMania in some aspect, but I just don't think it should be in every single one of Triple H's matches. Like, that's too.
I think it's just keeping the whole he's Mr. WrestleMania. It's like, yeah, okay, we get
Yeah, I
it.
mean, like for instance, like you can have him come out and do a skit with someone entirely different, but obviously now the last couple of years he's been involved in a Triple H match. I mean, you get it, they're friends, but they don't have to be. You know what I mean? I think it dulls away from it a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. But I mean, overall, it wasn't a bad promo, and like I think it still would have been better to maybe have had them go face to face or something, Lesnar and Triple H. But I think, in all
I
fairness,
quite liked the whole like Lesnar came out and it was sort of side by side Triple H and Shawn Michaels were like ready to face him off sort of thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. I thought it was pretty good that whole and. Paul Heyman is as good as ever on the mic, and you can get to
Yeah.
crowd response just so easily.
I just loved it. It's like you'll disappoint like your father-in-law, you'll disappoint the crowd, you'll disappoint your wife, but you're probably used to that already. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
It's so dirty and so evil, but like it just seems like no one on the roster really has that ability to really, really do that, And so yeah, that was really well done, and that invoked a very. I mean, kudos. I mean, last week we were very
it
critical.
was weather like a good night for Paul Heyman fans.
It was, wasn't it? Really? I mean, there was a lot of wrestling fans, if you could say, in the crowd. And we look back to last week when we basically said that the crowd were dead, and they were. It just makes a bit of a difference. Go watch last week's Raw and then watch this week's Raw. It was a lot easier to get a crowd response this week,
Oh,
and like that's part of what we kind of went into last week. We were saying that some places do give you better responses just by the kind of people that live there. So like that was in terms of like how into the entire show the crowd were. It ranked quite high. They were quite into what was going on. They obviously wanted to boo the people they didn't like, i.e. John Cena and others, and they wanted to cheer for the heroes. And I think Punk got quite a lot of cheers, and Undertaker and all that lot.
it was very much a sort of like, oh, I don't know who to cheer for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think one of the things as well that a lot of people have been saying in regards to the build up to WrestleMania, and this is something that we touched on last week as well, is that they do very well building up their top four matches, but anything below them, there wasn't anything more added on. I think with this Raw, it's still kind of the same. They didn't really amend that. There wasn't really any interaction. I know there was a little bit of interaction with Wade Barrett and The Miz, but it wasn't anything special, nothing
Yeah.
memorable. And they had been demoted to pre-show.
All it was keep squashing Zack Ryder.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got a few of the other ones, like like I said, the Bella twins against the Funkadactyls. That didn't help towards a right. I don't know why they're in a match at WrestleMania. I would much rather have that as a pre-show and have Miz and Barrett as part of the show, but that's
No,
just me.
they've got a match. Cesaro hasn't even got a match.
Cesaro hasn't even got a match. Yeah, exactly. And that was a topic for conversation as well. But um, Yeah, I mean it's harsh. Like that the lower bill just doesn't seem to stack up. And I know that we said this last week, but I'll go into a little bit again. Why not give these guys that are just desperate for a match? Give the Cesaros, give the the all the other guys on the roster that really want a match. Give them like a ladder match. You know what I mean? Something along those lines that you can throw like 10 guys in there. It can still be 20
Bring
minutes
back the
long.
WrestleMania Money in the Bank
Yeah,
match.
exactly. That way you've got a slot for everyone to go in. It's a memorable match, and it actually contributes towards the show, rather than having all these other little stuff that doesn't really contribute and everything like that. So, yeah, no, I can understand some wrestlers' frustration there not being used. Some wrestlers' frustration not being used. Some wrestlers shouldn't be in WrestleMania because they haven't connected with the fans, and that's one thing that um, some people may get annoyed with my thoughts of, but the fact is that I'm talking about the likes of the wrestlers that have been there for, let's say, over 5 years, and still they are not there with the fans. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
fans wouldn't care if WrestleMania was missed without them, and then they think that they should have a role at WrestleMania. No, you shouldn't. You should make yourself. You should make yourself unmissable at WrestleMania rather than
yeah.
an afterthought. So that's just my opinion. Um, yeah, I mean, I think this Raw was in overall a pretty good one. You knew it was going to be promo heavy going into it because they're not gonna risk injuring their guys so close to
Oh no.
Mania. Um, so yeah, I mean, all in all, it was a good Raw. It could have done better, like I said, with those low rivalries and everything. The whole Ryback and Mark Henry thing just didn't seem to make like that.
Naughty North was like, you want to get your hands on me, and I want to get my hands on
Yeah,
you.
it
It's like,
just sounded really
ooh.
homoerotic, didn't it? Like, and I think the crowd picked up on that as well because they were like, "What did he just say?" Mark Henry's never been the best at giving promos, really, though, is he?
No.
So, yeah, but I think that I think actually, out of all these sort of the lower card ones, Ryback and Mark Henry hasn't been that bad, but and then you got the whole Shield in against Big Show, Sheamus and
One
Ryback,
show,
and
yeah.
they just keep sort of like going into each other and everything. It's not been a great build up. They haven't. I don't. In my opinion, I don't think there's been enough promos by the Shield to make them viably. It doesn't mean anything in the match. You know what I mean? Really, if they
The
would have
Shield
made it
don't
about something.
necessarily need to do promos though. It's now hit that point where everyone knows who they are, what they're playing at, sort of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like they have when they were going against John Cena and Ryback and everything like that,
Mm.
they were going in to solve the John Cena problem, and it was like fair enough. But when they're going in to fight these guys, there's really no reason for them to do so except for it's WrestleMania. They're gonna have a match against three guys,
A
and
fight.
yeah, it just seems a bit odd that maybe if the Shield had picked something with these guys and gone after them specifically, it would have been a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
Like if they would have gone, oh, you're all failures, and these are all the things that you've done wrong. We're going to right these justices at WrestleMania. There's been really none of that. So it's kind of come off, I think, bad. I think it damages the Shield in a little bit in the sense that their whole character and gimmick is the fact that they believe in absolute justice, and you really haven't heard that much from them. It's just them wanting to fight at WrestleMania, which I think is a disservice to the characters that they are. But it's way too late for them to amend that now. I don't know how
Yeah.
good of a match they'll have because you can't really top the match they had at TLC.
TLC. No.
So yeah, I don't know where you're going to go with that. The way that I would have booked it is that I probably would have done it the other way around. I would have had this match at TLC, and had like a relatively sort of mediocre match, and then I would have had a rematch involving had the TLC match at WrestleMania, and that way it would have made it huge and everything like that. You can if you imagine having that match as part of WrestleMania instantly will be a better show because of that.
Oh
So
yeah.
you can't plan for the quality of matches. You can't do that. It's just impossible. But in a perfect world, that's what I would do. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to top that match, especially under the conditions that they're in. It's just a regular six man tag match.
Yeah, there's no stipulation or anything.
Yeah,
I think I'm sort of thinking inside with Mania is Triple H is that the only stipulation match?
I'm thinking so. Yeah. I don't think there's anything else like no holds barred or tables match. I think they're pretty much the only ones. I think one of the other things that they're talking about as well is that coming up to SmackDown, they may announce that Caitlyn and AJ are being added to the tag team title match, and then whoever wins gets all the titles. So that's
Uh,
there was talk going on about that. Apparently, a lot of people are speculating that's going to be Mr. McMahon's big announcement. Um, Yeah, I don't know. Sure, it's making the match more sort of like all on the line sort of match, but
Yeah,
um,
but
it's it would be different if you had, let's say, Cesaro and someone going for his title, and then you had the US title and the tag team titles, um, involved in that match.
oh yeah,
That way, you've got two far better wrestlers that could do two far better
matches.
matches. Yeah. But that's just my opinion anyway. Is there anything else from Raw really that you're thinking of there that you wanted to bring up or anything like that?
Um, Ziggler and Bryan make wrestling gold.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
about it.
it
That was
was
an amazing match.
it was an amazing match, and it really was. But whenever those two get in the ring, they do good. I remember they had like a match. It was roughly just when Bryan just started coming in, and they had a match that literally stole the show. It was at a pay-per-view as well, and I think it was like they were really struggling whether it was going to be Shawn Michaels against Undertaker or their match that was going to be match of the
Yeah,
year. And when you have to struggle to think against Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, that's good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
um, but yeah, I'd agree. So I think if you'd taken their match out of Raw, would you think Raw would have been quite thin then in terms of
Um,
wrestling?
in the sense of the way storylines are going, no. But I mean, for actual quality of matches, I quite liked Jericho Cesaro. That was a pretty good, like, in terms of as a match.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it would have been better though if they had. I mean, obviously they wouldn't do, and I wouldn't expect them to either. But it was all focused around Fandango and his involvement and him doing
yeah,
the signs with like giving him a 4 and a 3. I thought that was pretty funny. Um,
it was pretty smart going. I mean, I quite liked how we never really touched on. We just said that it wasn't the ending, that Rock and Cena wasn't the ending. But I like how Raw ended.
yeah, yeah. I thought
With
I
that
know
whole proper sort of
it was dark and
big middle finger.
yeah, it was, and like I know that recently. I mean, I've been looking up that apparently some of Paul Bearer's sons are very unhappy with the way that the segment went, but they okayed it beforehand. But apparently, the way that it was done didn't seem the way they talked about it. I don't know about that, but in terms of
Yeah,
that,
but I've also heard there's a lot of people turning around saying that whatever, like if they had actually gone to Paul Bearer about it, he'd have been up for it
yeah,
because
and
it's perfect. It's like
yeah,
it's the best storytelling. If you're trying to portray that, the Undertaker is the son of Paul Bearer, if you want to get under his skin, there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. No, I get you. That yeah, no, I understand. Like in that fact, that um, it's sort of like a thing. It's something that maybe wrestling fans, if you haven't actually spent any time around other wrestlers or wrestling yourself, you may not understand. But it's just something that comes with the business. That if that happens and it can be used as part of a storyline, you kind of would accept it.
Mm.
Now we did touch on this beforehand that you obviously that there is a line, and while Punk has been disrespectful in storyline, he hasn't actually said one single bad word about Paul Bearer or who
No,
he was. Now, so that makes it a lot different. They're attacking his character. They're not attacking the man that he is, that he was.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that is a lot different. That's the way I would take it. Some people might find it offensive, and that's completely down to them. But that's the way that I would take it, and I imagine that's the way that you would take it as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's just something that kind of, is that. Do you think that's something that just comes along the sort of wrestling culture? Do you
Pretty
think?
much, it just comes with it.
Yeah,
We sort of touched on it when Punk was making comments about Jerry the King's heart attack.
yeah. It's something that
It happens.
yeah that is something that he would have okayed, and that whole sort of bit where where Heyman was faking the heart attack. Lawler didn't have a problem with it. If he had a problem with it, he would have left the company. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's just the way that it goes.
he'd have definitely been a bit more vocal about it.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, in wrestling, if you can get a storyline, an emotional response out of using a real life situation, then they're going to use it. That's just the way that wrestling is. They will grab things that get the mainstream's attention and they will use it in their storylines, especially
Exactly.
WWE in that fact. So I wouldn't be shocked. They've done a lot worse. Like I said, there was stuff said where Randy Orton had a promo, I think, against Eddie Guerrero a couple of years ago. That to me
That
was
against
well
Rey
over the line.
Mysterio and Slated Eddie, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was over the line because then he was attacking him and then he was saying bad stuff about Eddie Guerrero. I don't think that's on. And but in terms of like disrespect to Paul Bearer and the man, there hasn't actually been anything done, in my
Oh no.
opinion. And even if there is, I'm sure that Paul Bearer would be one of those guys that, as you said, that would be the first to put his hand up and say, yeah, that's actually a great idea, run with it. So yeah, a great ending, very powerful ending. When you think of when they're gonna do the trailers leading up to that match, that's gonna be part of it, where he smothers himself in the dust,
Yeah,
and
not
he's
even the
got
fact
his
that he pours Taker with it. It's the fact that he's like probably gets a handful and starts rubbing it over his face, sort of
yeah.
thing. It's like that's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm sure that Punk will look back on at the end of his career when they do these Hall of Fame induction videos. It's one of those golden moments that like you remember him for, So that's really
Oh,
really good.
it's also because like the Undertaker and 20-0 and like it's one of those things. Like I mean, I'm talking to this as like like a long term fan, and so and yourself,
Yeah.
like kids probably wouldn't so much understand, obviously, the whole Undertaker's urn and all that lot. But it's that proper, like a proper benchmark of the Undertaker is his urn,
Yeah, and there's
and it's like a real you were a badass heel. How? Because you basically stole the urn from the Undertaker.
Yeah, exactly. It was an instant way to get the Undertaker wanting to decimate you, and it's not the first time that the urn's been used in storylines. It's just the
Oh
first
no,
time
not
that
at
it's been
all. It's just
used.
this is probably the first. This is the first time it's been used in such a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's good. I'm looking forward to their match. I mean, there's something that we'll go into a little bit when we go into the next conversation we'll move into in a minute, which is the WrestleMania predictions. That maybe a lot of people are saying that this isn't a good WrestleMania because it is too predictable. Maybe. Well, actually, I'll tell you what. We'll move into that matches. We'll move into that conversation now. If you click number 2, we're basically now going into our WrestleMania predictions. I may or may not. I'm not entirely sure if I have the time in editing add up the right ones that me and Matt have got, and I'll put a little marker if I have, then it'll appear up on the things. If not, I'll do it next time, I guarantee. But we're going to be going through the WrestleMania matches, doing our predictions, doing our thoughts on where they could go with these matches, and everything like that. And one of the things that, like I said, we were talking about just briefly beforehand, is that a lot of people are saying that the reason why this WrestleMania, a lot of people aren't getting into this WrestleMania is because the matches are too predictable. Now, because of that, I'll give WWE some credit here. They aren't stupid. They will realise if a card seems predictable, and sometimes they will throw a few curveballs your way. Now, 90% of the time they won't, but WrestleMania is the time of the year that they probably they maybe will go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily the predictability of it. I mean, yeah, okay. Oh, it's a predictable pay per view. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
It's not terribly predictable. Like you've got all the people like you'd want to win
Yeah.
and all that, but then it's the same with everything. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's a predictable pay per view.
Yeah, I mean, I like some people are saying that the top 4 matches are really predictable. The fact that Del Rio is going to win, Undertaker, Triple H,
I'm
and
actually not
Cena.
going to go for Del Rio to win.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go into that in a minute anyway.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are saying that those top 4 matches are extremely predictable. We're going to say the reasons why they could go a different direction and why they might go a different direction. And our predictions for that. We'll start with the pre-show anyway. We've got the Miz versus Wade Barrett. If this was actually part of the show, I'd say Miz, but because it's pre-show, I'd say Barrett. And the reason being is because if they're going to do a title change, why do it at a pre-show, even at WrestleMania?
They've changed the tag team titles have changed hands on a pre-show.
Okay, but
If they, granted, not recently,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a fair
exactly,
while ago, but
but I think even then it was like for Epico and Primo, so it wasn't like a big win. You know what I mean?
oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, but so yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think maybe different? Do you think?
I'm with you actually.
Yeah, you think Barrett's going to retain?
Yeah.
I think if he's going to lose, I think it'll be insult for him to lose at a pre-show, especially for a title that's that prestigious. I know that WWE doesn't see it that way anymore.
It's
but
just a mid-card title nowadays.
Yeah, it
It's
is, yeah.
nah.
Then we've got the match that should never have been on the card. We've got the Bellas and Bellas versus the
Is
Funkadactyls.
it? Well, is
and
it
Sweet
Bellas
Tea.
versus the Funkadactyls, or is it? I swear
It's
it was,
all of them against each other. It's a mixed tag. It's an eight
It's
person
an eight-man
tag
mixed
match.
tag match,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Really doesn't really matter who wins, but I think because the Bellas are being pushed, it's probably going to be them.
Fucking hope so.
It's
I'll tell you what. I don't actually even want to imagine it. It's like the Funkadactyls, like Naomi gets the pin. It's like I am going home.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that they probably do want a whole big dancing thing at WrestleMania, considering that, and that's probably the reason why I will change my mind. I think they probably will go with Brodus Clay and Sweet Tea winning, and then they could do the dancing at the end. And it's all WrestleMania, and they can maybe do fireworks and shit. So yeah, I think actually,
They've
yeah,
got P Diddy.
yeah,
Fuck off with everything else.
yeah. So yeah, I think they will go for the face win. I think they'll probably go for Brodus Clay, Sweet Tea. What about you? Do you think otherwise, or?
I would much rather see Rhodes Scholars go over.
Okay, so you're going to go for them, all right.
Yeah.
Then we've got the tag team title match going into the theme of tag team matches. We've got Hell No against Ziggler and Biggie Langston.
Ziggy Biggie.
Yeah, Ziggy Biggie. I think that Ziggler and Langston are going to win. The reason being is because it's Langston's debut, and they don't want a guy that physically dominating to lose in his first match.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
and also when you look at the fact that that Team Hanover have been champions for a very very long time, it just makes sense to me. If I think this kind of relates to the World Heavyweight Title match. If they lose that match, I can really see Ziggler cashing in, because I don't think they want WrestleMania to be a bad thing for Ziggler. You know what I mean? They want him to come out looking strong, and that's
Oh
pretty much the
yeah.
two only ways that he's going. I think he's going to walk out with a title. That would be my prediction, but I think that he'll win this one. I
Which
don't know.
title? We'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, what's your thought? Do you think Ziggler and Langston as well?
I I don't know. I think it's probably going to be. I'm going to sort of the same as you in the fact that with um, if Team Hell No win, then obviously that's prime for Ziggler to cash in.
Yeah.
But I kind of get the impression nowadays that they seem to forget that Ziggler holds the Money in the Bank title.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, I think Cole actually referenced on Raw a couple of weeks back that he's like, if he doesn't cash it before the next Money in the Bank pay per view, it's void, and that's only like a few months away. So,
Yeah, exactly.
he's had it for a long time. But yeah, that's under my thought anyway. That I think they will win, and like I said, at very least if they don't, I think he's going to cash in. The next one that is on the list is the Ryback Mark Henry match. That's Ryback all day long. Mark Henry has got.
Yeah,
He's not going to win
it's
that
like
match.
on the SmackDown, it's like the whole the weight bench competition that they had. It's
Yeah.
just like, you serious?
Mm.
But it's like, oh no, he can't like deal with losing, so he's just going to cheat out of it.
Yeah, yeah. But I know for a while. I know that we might get told you and me are very high on Ryback, and that's why we always think that that he should win. But the fact is that he's a face that hasn't had a win on a pay per view for a very long time. And WrestleMania, if you're going to start putting stock back into this
Well,
face,
yeah, they're sort of pushing him again,
yeah,
and they finally sort of realised again that like still a really big face.
yeah, and he still gets a lot of people behind him and everything. So I think that he needs his WrestleMania moment. I think that's probably why he'll beat Mark Henry. I don't know how he's going to beat Mark Henry. I don't know if they've been practicing him doing the shell shock, and I don't know how that's going to happen. But it's not going to be a pretty match. It's not going to
If
be a
he can do it on two people, he can do it on Mark Henry.
yeah. It's not going to be a good match though. It's going to be quite a poor quality match. I think that in terms of actual like ring work, even though Mark Henry's been in the business longer, I think Ryback's actually better than him. I don't think it's going to be a very great match, but Ryback will win it, and I would put a lot of stock into that as well. What is that your thought as well on that Ryback?
Yeah, I'm for Ryback on the win.
Okay, no problem. So the next one is pretty much like the undercard, sort of like the final, like the main event of the undercards, which is the Shield against Orton, Sheamus, and Big Show. I'm going to go for a Shield win again. I don't think that this team are prestigious enough
I
the way they
can't.
are at the moment that
Yeah,
they will lose.
I mean that it's still like they keep hinting on it when Orton, Barrett, and Orton, Show, and Sheamus actually team up. There's like, like 3MB. They're a good three-man tag match, but they're not a great three-man tag match,
Yeah,
and they are going into the Shield.
yeah.
And as far as three-man tag mentality goes, the Shield have it down.
Yeah, and I think as well that in terms of the thoughts of it, I think that if you had the Shield actually lose at WrestleMania to three guys that in my opinion
Team.
aren't as as a domineering forces, let's say John Cena, Ryback, and all that, then it just seems like, why did they win all their previous matches that were harder matches? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
makes little sense, and I don't think it does anything for Sheamus, Show, or Orton if they beat them. It just then they're going to go into different storylines. But if you have the Shield win, then they're going to come up with this whole unstoppable thing. They can, if they get put into good storylines after Mania, then it's going to be really big for them. So I think the Shield will win. I think they will win. I think whether it will be Randy Orton finally turning heel and turning on Sheamus and Big
It's a
Show.
lot of speculation, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's going to turn into this is it, the moment that Randy Orton gets his heel turn.
yeah. But either or, I think the Shield will win that. I under the same thoughts of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're hitting the main events now. These are the top four. These are the ones that people have been saying is very predictable. We'll start with the one that actually you don't think is that predictable, which is Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger.
Yeah.
Now people are saying this is predictable because of the fact that that Swagger's gone so uber heel. The fact that he's basically a racist.
Because he's become a massive racist,
Yeah,
he's not gonna win.
he's not going to win, and I would go with that as well. I think in times that have gone past, that if it wasn't in the era that we're in now, it could be a quite possibility that he could win, and then he could go on a run, and people will try and beat him. But he's ultra American. But what I can see happening is that I don't know if WWE have a huge amount of stock in Jack Swagger being a long-term big star. So I think that they want Alberto Del Rio to win, and they want him to beat the races down, all this lot. This is the way that I think WWE wanted to go, and that's the reason why I picked Del Rio. I mean, why would you think otherwise?
I don't see unless they're really going to be pushing Del Rio as like the big mass, like an Uber face sort of thing. Like nobody can beat him. Um, when all the chips are down, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Because it's essentially what it is. Like oh, he attacked. It literally is just stacking up to perfect sort of face heel matchup. It's just like, oh, he attacked his ring announcer and best friend. Oh, now he's getting a bit, oh, don't forget you're a Mexican in America sort of thing.
yeah,
So, yeah, I don't. But the fact that they're building Swagger up as well, as much as they're trying to go, yep, Del Rio's on next big face sort of next big face sort of thing. They are really still pushing for a Uber heel in Swagger.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I get that, but I just think that he's been pushed as a heel for this very moment, so that he can be beaten. That's why I think anyway.
Mm.
But we'll see which way they're going to take it. Obviously, we'll go different sides in that, and that'll be quite interesting. I'll no doubt send you something over Twitter if I am correct, which is quite derogatory. So we'll go to the next one anyway, which is the Brock Lesnar Undertaker, Brock Lesnar
Brock
Undertaker,
Lesnar.
Brock
Taker?
Lesnar Triple H match. That's on. A lot of people saying this is quite easy to call. I don't know, because I think that in terms of Triple H, yeah, people will say he's definitely going to win, so he has another match. I don't think he has that many more matches in him, and I think he wants to, like, you've got to think he hasn't been wrestling that much. He's been wrestling maybe one match more than Undertaker per year, which isn't a lot.
No, exactly.
Whereas I think that Brock Lesnar, as much as he's on this sort of contract that he can come in and out really as he wants to, he's going to probably be involved in much more in storylines going forward. I think that him losing to Triple H at Mania maybe does a disservice to his sort of character as a beast and this sort of
Yeah,
animal. Um,
it would definitely sort of sell him over as the one that forced Triple H to retire, sort of thing.
yeah, exactly. And I think as well that you can't have too many people having their redemption, so to speak. You can't have Triple H beating his demons while Alberto Del Rio beats his demons, while John Cena beats his demons.
Yeah,
There has to be one of them that gives. So that would be my thought on it anyway. That maybe, just maybe, Brock Lesnar will win, and that's why I'm going to pick him as well. I think Brock Lesnar's going to win. And I also think it probably won't be the end that you see of Triple H, because these sort of matches where the retirement's on the line are quite flimsy. They can end up returning.
oh
So
yeah,
But I think that because Brock Lesnar, and he has been signed to a deal that takes him past WrestleMania to the next WrestleMania, I think this makes sense that you need him to win, especially as he only, if he loses, and he's only won one of the three matches he's been in since he returned, which isn't good for a monster character, really.
Yeah.
Um, and
I mean, granted, there's no denying that these have been big, sort of leave it all in the mid center of the ring matches,
yeah,
but it's still W's and L's in the box, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the way that you look at it. Now, like the generic fan may not care. We're not a free show. Maybe I look too much into that, but that's the reason why I think. I think it's probably the one that really that I probably could be wrong with, because it's quite likely they will go with Triple H winning and getting his redemption, and then going on to protect the company against Brock Lesnar. But it just makes me think, how are they going to integrate Brock Lesnar then if he's got beaten by the system, and the McMahons have finally beaten him and stopped him from destroying them. Well, what do they do with him then? It just makes little
Yeah.
sense. So yeah, I'm gonna go Brock Lesnar. What about you?
I'm with a Lesnar win over this one.
Yeah, okay. A lot of people may disagree with us there, and I would fully understand if they did as well. So, the next one that we're going on to is Punk Undertaker, which is like, for me, it's the main event, and it's the one I'm most interested in seeing.
Definitely.
I think the majority of people are like that as well. And yeah, I think that a lot of people are thinking this year that if Undertaker was ever going to lose, it would be this year, because he's getting older and he's not going to be able to perform in that many matches. And
And it's against Punk.
what a way to set up Punk as the ultimate heel for the next, I don't know, 10 years that he's going to be wrestling, then beating the streak. That would set him up for the
Yeah.
next 10 years as the biggest heel of all time. But I think they've got too much respect for the streak. I think that I
Spent a
don't see
lot
him
of
ever
time.
losing.
Yeah, I've
Um,
spent a lot of time saying that like Undertaker will retire streak intact.
yeah. And I would agree with you. I think at the time now he was going to lose it. I mean, granted, if he did lose it, it would be huge, and everyone would be talking about it. It would be all over, the social media outlets and everything. It would be massive if he lost. But I just don't see him losing. I just think that it's become too much of an institution now, to do that. So I think that it'll be Undertaker win. I think it'll be a brilliant match.
Hmm.
I think it'll be worthy of the WrestleMania moniker. If those two can get enough the same chemistry that maybe that he had with Shawn Michaels. I know they haven't. I know they've wrestled in the past, but definitely not for a while. So it'll be interesting to see how they sort of go on there. But it should be a great match. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that Undertaker's going to win. If let's say that Punk did win though, like I said, it sets him up just perfectly for the rest of his career to be the most hated guy in wrestling, which would suit him down to a T.
Oh yeah,
He could brag about that till the cows come home. And if there's one person to brag about stuff that they've done, it's Chris Jericho or CM Punk.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would think. We actually did miss that match as well. We'll go back into that at the end of it.
Oh, back into the mid card.
Yeah, back into it. We'll go on to that now. Yeah, actually, yeah, Chris Jericho against Fandango. I completely forgot about it, as it's been made quite
Dango.
recently. Yeah, I unfortunately I think that it would be really sort of like a slap to Fandango if he starts his career off with a loss. I know even if it is to Chris Jericho, but in your debut, if you have your debut and lose, that's really stunts your rise. In fact, I don't even think I've seen anyone debut recently and lose their debut. To
Yeah.
anyone that they've built
Well,
up in this
there's no
fashion.
point. It's just like, oh yeah, yeah. Oh no, they're really devastating. They're really devastating. What was the point?
Yeah, exactly. And it almost goes into the same point as the whole Undertaker thing that, yeah, while I can understand that people be like, oh, it's such a disgrace that Chris Jericho is going to lose to him, Chris Jericho probably sees it off. If I lose to this guy, he's got the moniker of saying I beat Chris Jericho in my first match at WrestleMania, and that sets him off into the remaining of his career really, really well. That sets him off.
Oh, exactly.
That puts him on a pedestal for the rest of his career, and I think Chris Jericho would see it that way as well. That he's one of these people that will use his name to better other people. He's been doing it for the last couple of years. He did it with CM Punk last year when he lost against them.
Mania, yeah.
Yeah, he does. He does it with it. He did it with Ziggler when he lost against him. He helped him with that.
It's like Jericho like pretty much has just returned to the WWE, just essentially just to push new talent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's probably getting paid a pretty amount of sum, but he's not being like John Cena and not letting other guys go over him. He does it all the time, and
Yeah.
because I think Chris Jericho as well, because of how good he is in the ring and the multitude of fantastic matches he has back to back. If I was a new rising star like Fandango and they said, "Do you want to work with Chris Jericho?" I'd bite your hand off. I really would. I'd be like, "Yes, do it now. I want to have this
Yeah.
written out so no one else can steal him from my WrestleMania match." So it's good for him. A lot of people may not like Fandango. Well, that's part of his job. You're not supposed to like him, but
Yeah,
um,
he's a heel.
he's a heel. Yeah. If he's annoying, he's supposed to be. That's part of his character. But yeah, I get it. And yeah, some people might be saying, well, maybe Fandango hasn't earned his spot at WrestleMania. You should have had a Cesaro match against Chris Jericho. Yeah, maybe you possibly should have, but there's plenty of other matches on the line. I think in terms of how the crowd are into Fandango and his debut, it. I think that deserves a space on WrestleMania more than a Sweet Tea and Brodus Clay match against,
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is with that match as well is with how much, like, I don't know a single person who doesn't like Jericho.
yeah,
He has a massive following, like whether he's face or heel, everyone loves Jericho.
yeah,
And but no, like at Fandango, it's just like, he's just so fucking annoying. And it literally is like your most face versus your most heel sort of thing.
yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, obviously Punk Taker's like the big match that everyone is really interested about, but everyone cheers for Jericho, and not a single person on this earth likes Fandango.
Yeah, and everyone's waiting for him to make his wrestling debut, and they've built that up over the last couple of weeks as
Yeah,
well. Even I think Jerry Lawler actually is actually sort of impressed me how much he's been building up towards this. He really wants to see Fandango debut, and he sort of portrayed that to the audience, which is something that, like, I think Jerry Lawler sometimes just seems very scripted and dead on the microphone at times. But whenever he
yeah.
goes into this, he's sort of like I was quite impressed with his sort of ability to kind of build up. Oh, I want to see him debut and all this. Like, I really want to see it so bad, and that
He
translates
has
to
a
the
proper like
audience.
excited little child about
Yeah,
it, sort of thing,
exactly.
hasn't he?
Which means at this moment, when he finally gets in the ring against Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, it's going to be a special moment. So yeah, I think Fandango will win. I think just because of the person and that Chris Jericho is, I think if Chris
Yeah,
Jericho won, I don't think Jericho would like it. It doesn't serve a purpose. He's already made. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
I'm I know that Fandango it was under another moniker in NXT. I think it was Johnny Curtis.
yeah.
And I think that Chris Jericho was around NXT roughly around that time, so maybe they've had interactions before, and he wants to do the kid, service. He just seems like that sort of guy that wants to be able to help you become a better wrestler and personality. So yeah,
Yeah.
Fandango all day long, I think. So we're going to the big main event, Rock versus Cena 2. It was once in a lifetime. It's now twice in a lifetime. We're so lucky that we get to see it again. Thank you, Vince McMahon, for setting up this match. Thank you so much.
It wasn't a terrible match last year.
It was a terrible match, but like it just we've
It
already gone through
is the
this, haven't
whole. It
we?
was once in a lifetime. It's
Yeah,
like, and now we have it again.
they
Well,
really they really shot themselves in the foot with that a little bit. But if anyone thought that was actually being genuine, there, no, turn that dislike into a like, okay?
I see you there hovering
Yeah.
over the upside down.
You halfway through that really angry comment, aren't you? Yeah, you can delete that.
No.
So yeah, no. It's like I said, we've gone into this loads. Straight after Cena won the Rumble, we were talking about this, and we were talking more recently about a possible Cena heel turn. Cena's going to win. The Rock won't. The way that it will go is that there's two different ways that they'll go. The reason being is because Rock isn't around long enough to defend his title. The whole sort of basis of him going from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania is easy for him to be champion. It's pretty much the only time that he could be.
Yeah.
So Cena's going to win. Now it's just a matter of how he's going to win. Is he going to turn heel and screw The Rock, or is he just actually going to get his redemption and beat The Rock? First off, that's the real question here. I mean, do you think there's any chance that Rock will win, or
Not particularly. No.
yeah,
I reckon it's such a slim chance.
yeah,
Um, I mean, the one thing I quite like is I like the pictures that come as a result of it. That's always pretty good.
yeah,
I saw a meme, and it was just like, and once after I beat Cena, I'm going to completely remove the WWE title from TV. I was like, you know what? I could buy into that.
yeah. So yeah, no, I think that like with like I said, with this, it's just been too predictable. I mean, yeah, they might, let's say that they have The Rock win. They're not going to do that because it's just that the way that they've built up is just too damaging to John Cena, and they will not do
Oh
that.
yeah,
They're going to have him win. They're going to have him be champion, probably for a little while as well. He's probably going to have a title run, because The Rock isn't around to defend it. He's going to go off and do, his movies that he's already pre-signed to do. People are also saying, that, like I said, that John Cena might be going heel. If he does go heel, fantastic. It'd be a very interesting moment for them to do it.
oh
Um,
yeah, definitely.
but yeah, in terms of predictions, yeah, Cena will win. I'd be very shocked if he didn't. And I'm guessing that you're under the same thought of that as well.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. There's a few other things that actually I wanted to bring up as well, just kind of in this topic, that we're talking about there, is in terms of predictions. A friend of mine spoke to me recently, actually, saying, "Do you think there's going to be any returns at WrestleMania?" Personally, I don't. He did bring up whether I thought Batista was going to return at WrestleMania.
I don't see
I don't
Batista
see him doing,
returning.
because his movie career really is just starting to take off. He's appearing in a lot more movies, a lot more high scale movies as well as time goes on. I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't. I think if there was a time for him to return to WWE, each day that goes past is less likely because of his age. You got to remember when he went into wrestling, he was a lot older than the majority of people that were there. He's almost like DDP, where he got into when his name got huge. He was actually at the latter stage of his age where he could wrestle full time.
yeah,
So and that's just the way it is. If I were Batista, I personally wouldn't go back to wrestling and try and risk my body when I'm doing so well, having this sort of the body in movies and stuff like that.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the way that I would think about it anyway. I know a lot of people might say, well, you have to be passionate about wrestling. Yes, you do. You also have to look at your health, i.e., what Edge did. He wrestled just too long, and he almost killed his chances of even moving
Well, that
around
was the thing,
freely.
wasn't it? It was like Edge took it all as far as one more bad bump and
Yeah,
you're gone.
and you're gone. Yeah, exactly. Now, no one should ever take it that far, and I think in terms of Batista as well, yeah, he did have a short run, but it was because of his age. That's the only thing about it.
I, to be fair, yeah, okay, you could say he had a short run. He had a good run as
Yeah, he
well.
did have a good run, and he was a good personality and wrestler while he was there as well. He's just he didn't have he didn't have the chance that Randy Orton did when he was young to get huge at his age and then have a 15-year career. Or anything these lines. When he got huge into wrestling, as I've said there before, he was just older than the majority of people that would have at that time.
Yeah,
So his time was already ticking. That was it basically. He might come back and do like. Hell, he might come back and even do another match, but I don't think he'll ever come back for another run. I think now is just not the right time for him. In
yeah.
terms of other returns, I thought that maybe Ric Flair was going to make a appearance. Obviously, with the situation as it is now, you can understand why that won't
Wouldn't,
happen.
yeah.
So you can understand that there. The guy's obviously hurting, and you would be. But yeah, there's not really no one else that really I think would make it a comeback. I don't think Austin's. I think Austin's already ruled himself out of making an appearance. There's really no one else really that would make such a huge deal of being back.
No.
Maybe if they had saved HBK coming back, maybe at WrestleMania rather than on the Raw before, maybe that could have been something. But no, I don't think there's going to be any big returns, and I'd be actually quite shocked to see who they're going to bring back for, because normally they do a big return on Raw the day after. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
but I don't really know if there's anyone left there for them to actually do. So anyway, I think we've gone into that quite satisfactory anyway, and
I just thought it was like, woo, one return, Evan Bourne!
imagine that. That would just
I was
suck
going to
so
make my
badly.
Raw return, but then I got high.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I hope that's answered some of your questions there that I've been asked a few as well. So, and the next one actually was a question I was asked ages ago by a good friend, and he was basically talking to me about we were talking about MMA and the reason why a lot of wrestlers actually go into MMA and stuff like that. So if you press number 3, you'll be redirected to there. And we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the likes of Brock Lesnar, Batista, who we were talking about ourselves.
Hmm?
I know that Davey Hart Smith went into MMA. It just seems to be like another avenue that wrestlers go into afterwards. And a lot of MMA fans may not like that, but the fact is that when some of these wrestlers that go in, especially like the likes of Brock Lesnar, when he went into it and he did well. I know he didn't have a great. Not a lot of people respected his ability in MMA, but when he got into it, he had an amateur wrestling background, and that helps you immensely going into MMA.
Oh yeah, especially
So
considering it's ground and pound submission.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he was already an amateur wrestling champion before he joined WWE. So that part of him was already built into there. And you got to think that these wrestlers aren't just fake muscles and statures. They are athletes. You have to be, and
Yeah.
especially some of the more younger and gifted ones. Like Batista is a bit of a different one because he went into it, and I think it's just because he was big, and everyone saw from his first MMA fight that he wasn't exactly great by any means.
Ooh.
But when you look at the likes of like I said, of Brock Lesnar, he was still pretty young when he went into MMA, and he was still an athlete. He's still a big guy. He's definitely physical, so he fit into that mold very well.
Right.
Um, I think that the reason, I mean, as a person that got into wrestling yourself, Matt, did you ever think that MMA might be an avenue that you might want to go down eventually, or do you think wrestling was very
I've
much
never
a
seen the appeal to get into MMA.
yeah,
I don't know. I prefer. I've always I went into it just on the hope of just being the storyteller, as the storytelling side of wrestling,
yeah,
rather than literally just like I just want to fight someone.
yeah? No, I get you. No,
And
I think a lot of people would share that as well. I think there's a very small percentage of people that maybe might see that as another people that maybe like the physical side of the actual grappling and everything. I think you and me when we went into wrestling, we were very much lovers of the storytelling side of wrestling, and that way it didn't really appeal to us. Personally, because of me, I just never would be able to get an MMA anyway.
no.
So yeah, but like I said, I've got a friend of mine who's speaking to me who has been starting to get an MMA and everything. This isn't actually the friend that gave me the idea for the conversation. Two completely different people, but yeah, I mean, they are quite closely intertwined in that sense because the wrestling background does help you for the groundwork of MMA, and the rest of it can be taught. You don't get born with any of the. I hate that thing where people are born with the talent. No, you're not. You learn stuff, and you can learn things if you're willing to work hard enough to do it. So if you're a wrestler who maybe doesn't want to do it anymore, MMA I guess is a way that you can, is an
It's a way
avenue to
to
go
go.
forward.
Yeah.
Now whether it pays well, I'm not a bit. I don't watch that much MMA, and I know a lot of that diehard MMA fans don't like wrestlers going into MMA because they think it's like Hollywoodifying the sport. That they get these big names coming in, they don't really know how to do MMA properly. Um,
Yeah, they've sort of come from something that is. It's because a lot of MMA guys they start off with watching UFC and they think it's real stuff, real blood and that lot, and then it cues up the whole sort of WWE over UFC argument.
Yeah, especially as they have intertwined a lot over recent. Like if you look at WWE and UFC, they have intertwined a lot recently as well. I mean, there's been a lot of references because of Brock Lesnar going in. We've seen a lot of wrestlers attend UFC events. We had the whole Undertaker Brock Lesnar thing at a UFC event. Um,
Huh?
did you not know about that? Undertaker went face to face with Brock Lesnar after one of his fights in UFC, and
No, I did not know that.
yeah, people were saying that they're probably going to have a fight and stuff, or it's going to translate into a storyline in WWE. It never materialized, but that happened. But
Oh, fair enough.
there is a lot there, and like I said, when these guys go in, um, when a wrestler finishes his career, or maybe things don't work out in WWE, they have to think of another avenue of work, something that they can use their actual builds, because you build yourself up to look impressive, and that doesn't go well into the majority of other sports. So or entertainment for that fact. So the one thing that you can use it on that sort of building that chunk is MMA, where you can use that weight against your opponent.
Yeah.
So that's just a way for them to go forward. And obviously there is a lot of links there, and everything. And a lot of people might be thinking coming out of WWE that might be a way for them to go. So that's why I think that you probably will see more wrestlers going into MMA. And dare I say, you might see some MMA guys who maybe aren't doing too well, maybe going to wrestling. You just don't know. You're just waiting for that one guy to maybe try his hand and go from there. It's not completely unheard of. Hey, if the Miz from the real world can make it into WWE, a UFC fighter could. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, exactly.
um, that might happen. It might be that way along the lines. But they also, one of the things as well, kind of going into that as well, is that MMA and wrestling compete for the same demographic. Would you agree with that?
Um, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially they fight for the same sort of older demographic. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas WWE might capture the younger ones who like John Cena and everything, they're going for a more PG product. But for the majority of what they're going for the people that would buy their events, the people that would buy wrestling events, are competing are being, they UFC wants to take those views and put them into UFC, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's what they're basically going towards. Um, so that's pretty much the way it goes. There's really not much I can really say, or even the pair of us, because I have watched. We actually went to see MMA in Wembley.
Hmm.
I think it was one of like saw Ken Shamrock fighting, and we saw his son fighting, and stuff like that. It was fun. It was good, and it was good to watch.
His
Um,
kid's a better fighter.
yeah, yeah. But that was towards the end of Ken Shamrock's career as an MMA fighter, where basically he was just getting beaten because he was just too old at that point. But yeah, we have gone to see fights, but I wouldn't say that we're either avid followers of the sport. But if you're wondering why there's the wrestlers would see that as an avenue, maybe we've shed a little bit of light on that for you there and everything as well. If you do have any questions though, please send them in. We'll try to answer them the best we can. I'm sure that even if you have any UFC questions, I've got a few people that watch it religiously that I know of, and I'll be more than happy to get their
To put in
opinions
the
on it.
research.
Yeah. But this isn't Let's Talk MMA. This is Let's Talk Wrestling, and we talk about that as well. So is there anything else for you that you wanted to add there for this week at all?
Not
Wrestlemania?
particularly. I think we're well
Yeah,
done.
I think we're quite good. I think it's actually quite long, this one as well. We're starting to get back into the swing of things when it comes to LTW. I hope you guys
Yeah.
enjoyed the new intro as well. I spent a bit of time making that. I was making a few new intros. I thought I'd show Let's Talk Wrestling some love. So you got a new little intro for you to like anyway. If you do like it, I hope I'm glad that you did. And I'm putting up some new bars and stuff. I'm going to experiment with this episode to make it look a little bit more pretty and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. And enjoy WrestleMania. I know a lot of people. I know someone said to me there that they just think it's too predictable, so they're not going to waste money on it. That's fair enough. Personally, for me, WrestleMania is a social thing. I just love watching it and getting everyone else's opinions, and there are going to be good matches on the card as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. If you're going to invest in buying it and watching it, we're sure to do our views afterwards as well. And thanks for watching this week. It does mean a lot, especially with fun, Matt. Oh, yeah.
You're
Do you
lucky you
see?
live on
Do
the
you
other
see the?
side of an ocean.
Did you see that I let the A's breathe there? That was perfect. So yeah. Thanks a lot for watching this week, guys. It does mean a lot. We do appreciate all the comments and the likes and everything. It really does mean a lot to us. And we'll speak to you next week.
You've got it.
Bye bye.